Hi everyone, it's Wade from Coaster Explorers, and wow, do we have a lot to talk about today. So this past weekend, Cedar Point put out a short teaser video basically saying that something was going to be surfacing on September 19th, 2024. And when any park puts out a video like this, you get all kinds of speculation and rumors about what that new addition is going to be. I saw a lot of people pointing towards the Snake River Falls plot of land, mainly because that ride gave its last ride after Labor Day of this year. The ride's going to be removed. That leaves a whole open area for something new. I saw a lot of people pointing specifically to a water coaster from Mock Rides. I personally didn't think this announcement was going to be a roller coaster at all. I was more along the lines of thinking that maybe a water based flat ride or some type of flat ride to replace Snake River Falls, but I previously said that on the off chance that this was a roller coaster, it wasn't going to be anything big, or it'd be maybe a small family coaster of some kind, just kind of a filler coaster. Um, and I didn't really think this was going to be a Snake River Falls replacement. And I was right about that part, but I was not ready for the announcement that we got this morning. Around 5 a.m. this morning, Cedar Point dropped the big announcement of Siren's Curse, North America's tallest, longest, and fastest Vekoma Tilt Coaster, and I really want to jump in and break this down and kind of give my thoughts. I've got some really good and exciting thoughts about it, but I also have a couple questions and a couple reservations. So to start off, this apparently is that canceled tilt coaster from Energylandia. It was moved down to Six Flags Mexico, and now, for whatever reason, I guess that didn't work out, and it's ended up at Cedar Point, which is fine. I'm glad to see the thing finally get built. I've got to say, first off, I'm really glad to see new generation Vekoma coming to the United States. We've gotten a couple of Vekoma family coasters at Dollywood, Holiday World, and Kings Island, and we're finally seeing some Vekoma thrill coasters make their debut in the US. This and Flash Vertical Velocity at Great Adventure will be both opening in 2025, as well as Circuit Breaker down at Coda Land in Texas. And I think having these three thrill coasters from Vekoma opening all in the same year is going to really be fantastic for the company, and I'm really excited to see these coasters open in the United States and finally really get to experience new gen Vekoma. Also, having one of these unique tilt coasters just 4 hours for me is going to be great as well. I mean, it's not my home park, but it's pretty darn close. Siren's Curse will stand at 160 feet tall, travel up to 58 miles an hour, and feature a 90-degree vertical drop, which is interesting. That actually makes it the park's fifth coaster, I believe, with a drop of 90 degrees or more. One of the most intriguing things is that Siren's Curse will feature onboard audio, which is going to be the first coaster at Cedar Point to do so. And as someone who's ridden Big Bear Mountain, you'd be really surprised how much the onboard audio can really add to the experience. And overall, I think this coaster is going to be a great supporting coaster for Cedar Point and hopefully pull some of that crowd away from Valraven, especially since Siren's Curse is going to sit right behind Valraven. I really like the theme of Siren's Curse and how it plays into the tilt coaster model. I mean, you go up this big lift hill, you stop, and then you plunge vertically down into your demise at the hands of a siren. I mean, you're not literally plunging into Lake Erie or underwater, but at some point you do go under a pathway, which is a really cool feature. And I don't know, it's an interesting theme. I don't think we've seen this exact theme done before, so for the area it's in, I think it'll work well. However, as cool as Siren's Curse is going to be, I do have a few concerns, and the first one is capacity. Now, keep in mind this coaster was not designed for Cedar Point, so only running two 24-seat trains isn't anything that the park can really do anything about. And this really isn't the worst capacity that we've seen on a coaster. I mean, it could be better, but it's not bad. But I think a third train would really have been nice. The colors also don't really fit the theme, in my opinion. Maybe something like a light blue or a teal would have made a lot more sense. But again, the coaster wasn't designed for Cedar Point, so I really can't fault the park for that because they're not going to realistically repaint a brand new coaster. My other main concern, which is really more of a question instead of a concern, but why Cedar Point? They opened Wild Mouse in 2023, and Top Thrill 2 is more or less going to be their 2025 coaster now. You also have Valraven that's going to sit literally right in front of Siren's Curse, which is fundamentally a very similar coaster of holding you over a steep or vertical drop and then dropping you down that drop. Now, granted, I think Siren's Curse is actually going to be the better of the two coasters. It just seems like a really odd addition for Cedar Point. I think a park like Valley Fair, Six Flags Darien Lake, uh, even Michigan's Adventure, or I mean, even Kings Island would have been a better fit for a tilt coaster. I mean, this is three new coasters in a row now for Cedar Point, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad to see it. It's the roller coaster for a reason, but you've got three coasters in a row for Cedar Point now, and then you look at Kings Island, and they've gotten a family boomerang, which it was a good fit, but that's all they've gotten since Orion. It's just a little bit unfortunate to see Kings Island kind of getting left behind just a little bit. I think part of the decision for putting the tilt coaster at Cedar Point was really the terrain. I mean, it's going to be on a flat ground. The land is already cleared, other than having to move the road a little bit. That's nothing really challenging to do. Plus, Cedar Point had a tilt coaster already mentioned on a survey earlier this year, and granted, that was going to be like a 200-foot tall tilt coaster, but the survey, obviously there was enough guest interest or public interest in the tilt coaster for them to move forward and put this at Cedar Point. And with all the issues with Top Thrill 2, it's a nice extra addition for Cedar Point given all the issues they've had this year. It also really serves as kind of a worst case scenario backup where if maybe Top Thrill 2 doesn't have the best reliability next year, or really worst case scenario, it has a lot of downtime, and maybe closes for another extended period. At least they have a new coaster that's going to be running. Overall, though, I think Siren's Curse is going to be a really fantastic addition for Cedar Point, and the layout also looks fantastic. I mean, I haven't really gone into a lot of detail on the layout. I'll probably do a separate video on that, but 13 airtime moments, and most of them look really good. Plus, you've got the two corkscrews. The first one looks a little more floaty, but the second one looks a little more intense, and they're both really low to the ground, so you know that you're going to be taking those with some speed. Also, diving under the pathway, that's the first coaster at Cedar Point to do that, so the layout looks great. I'm really excited for it. At the end of the day, Siren's Curse looks to be a great coaster. It's going to be a great fit for the park. I'm just not so sure it was the best choice for Cedar Point, but hey, it's a new generation Vekoma. It's a tilt coaster, potentially the first one to open in North America, depending on when Circuit Breaker opens, and it's going to be 4 hours away from me, so I'm excited. Finally get on a new generation Vekoma. It's going to be a good year, I think, for Cedar Point next year. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Let us know down in the comments below what you think of this edition. If you don't think it fits at Cedar Point, what park would you put it at? Sound off in the comments. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. I'll go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.